Agnieszka, thank you so much for being with us here today. Welcome to Kino Lorber. Very excited to be talking about your film Green Border. First of all, I just want to say, wow, what a powerful, important film. Not only is it pressing, but it's also beautiful. You know, it's heartbreaking, but beautiful. So I just have some questions for you about Green Border. Again, it's such a timely film because it speaks to not only the migrant crisis on the Polish-Belarusian border, but to humanitarian crises everywhere. So how much do you think about your film's potential impact on the world when you're making them? And what do you hope the impact would be for Green Border?
Well, I was not hoping that I will change the world, which is going in very dangerous direction, in my opinion. But I was hoping that I can change world of some people. But the wars which is happening, and it's happening in several countries, and it was happening in Poland on Polish due to the crisis on Polish-Belarusian border. It's to dehumanize the people who are searching for a better life. And because they are different by race, by the color of the skin, by the culture, by the life experience and the places they are coming from, we reduce them to some kind of the danger, to some kind of the weapons, to some kind of the stereotypes. And they are really very useful to serve for the politician to spread the fear and hate. And when we are spreading fear and hate, it's very easy to manipulate with the people. And it's what's going on right now in many countries. And my ambition or my urge, it was to give back the faces and voices to those who became voiceless and faceless, who became just a mass of the different dangerous people. And you know, the empathy is like overused word, but I really believe that is the most important part of the human soul. And if you are losing that, you don't have future.
Can you talk a little bit about how you chose the different characters and perspectives from the refugees themselves to the activists and even the border guards?
I went with my screenwriters to the places where the situation became very dramatic. I was meeting with many activists. I was meeting with the local people, with the refugees, collecting a lot of statements and recording of their stories, of the activist stories, and also of the stories of the border guards, Polish border guards, who've been before very respected uniform force and not prepared at all to do suddenly those cruel and illegal, practically, if you consider that the constitution or international treaties are the law we have to respect. They've been forced to break that law and to do terrible things to the human beings, even to the children and women and elderly and so. So their perspective and the choices they have been very important to me as well. I think that somehow everybody became the victims of that situation and of the political choices the government was taking. And I just wanted to put the mirror, you know, it's very realistic film, and everything which is in that film did happen to some extent.
Those forest scenes were some of the most heartbreaking, tense and at times difficult scenes to watch, but they were also so visually captivating and so beautiful. What was the process of shooting in that setting like?
We went to the real forest, which is one of the biggest and oldest forests in Europe, if not the oldest one. But it was, and we've been like going there and walking and, and driving and meeting people and meeting also the soldiers who stopped us and, and have been with the guns and so on checkpoints. So that was a real adventure. We met some wild animals on the road, the wolves and the bisons, but it was impossible for us to shoot there. We'll never have the permits, and it's the state forest, and also it's full of militaries. So we found next to Warsaw several pieces of private forest, which looks and feels very much alike. And we just like created it, you know, from the scratches. We've been moving from one place to other practically every day or every 2 days, which helped us not to have too much of attention from the locals at what we are shooting. You know, we've been using uniforms and wire fences and the things like that. So of course it created immediately the curiosity, and we've been afraid that maybe in some point the authorities will decide to shoot us down. So so that it was, you know, made a bit like a guerrilla shoot. And you know, I knew that the forest is another character of the film, an important character. So it was a challenge to give that feeling that is in the same time beautiful, but for our characters, for especially for refugees, it becomes like the place of horror. You know, it changes to some kind of the horror.
This film really made you a target of Poland's right-wing government, and you've even received death threats. What do you think of that sort of response as a filmmaker and artist? You know, what does that say about your work?
Well, you know, the government overdid it, and they directed against me and our film so violent and so like shameful attacks, and campaign of the hate have been so like over proportional that it played against them. It means we had the great support from the audience. We made very good box office, and also the meetings with the audience afterwards, after the screenings, have been extremely emotional and very meaningful. So this was the great satisfaction. And by the end, that government lost the election to the democratic opposition. But unfortunately, some months, 6 months later, now, after the democratic opposition took the power, they started to repeat exactly the same thing that the previous government did. They realized how useful it can be to play with that fear, and it somehow is even worse because other guys, they really have some kind of racist opinion, and they've been expressing them in the way which was terrible but credible. And the new one, the center liberal, you know, politicians are using it only for electoral means. So I am on the war again. You know, I'm fighting again because they want to pass some laws which are very dangerous. It means the law that the soldiers on the border can shoot the people who are trying to go over the fence, over the wall, and they can shoot and they will be not punished, even if the shooting was not necessary or was not in the self-defense. So that is yeah, it's actually terrible. I hope that the law by the end will not pass, but they are pushing it very hardly, and it is something which I'm afraid of. You know, that if you don't deal with the issue of migration, which is very difficult and has a lot of, you know, it politically and socially, it's the most complicated issue we have right now. And it will not stop with any kind of walls and obstacles, because the millions of people, they would love to go because of the total inequality, because of the wars, because of the dryness and the climate catastrophe. They will be escaping the places where it's impossible to live. And they know now that it's the world when they can be safe, and that world doesn't want them. So, or that world will reunite and will be looking for the global solution, or the killing is another option. And I see that mentally, more and more nations are open to the conclusion that we have to kill them.
The really interesting part of Green Border is the epilogue. And this is our last question. We have 5 questions for you today. The epilogue is so interesting because, you know, it shows the hypocrisy in this whole migration crisis, the hypocrisy of the Polish government, and it proves that they didn't have a problem with refugees, only refugees who didn't look like them. So can you speak a little bit more about your decision to include that and whether that was planned from the beginning or was that added later on?
We wanted to make that film very quickly, and we started on very collecting the the documentation and writing the scripts practically a few weeks after the crisis started in 2021. And we finished the script by the end of the year 2021. And after we started to look for the money, which was the longest part in our work, and then the full-scale invasion on Ukraine happened, and in February, by the end of February 2022, and we didn't know if it means that maybe our story is not relevant anymore, or maybe it's even more relevant. And after watching what's going on, we realized that it's even more relevant, and it becomes in some way one story. And yes, the government, but also the enthusiasm of the people, the wave of the solidarity, everybody have been helping Ukrainian refugees. It reunited nation, very polarized nation, a big like in the United States, but it united the people, and they felt very good to be good, they felt very good to be helpful. But if among the white refugees from Ukraine, you found the group of black skins students who've been escaping the war as well, who studied in Kiev or Lviv or another Kharkov or another Ukrainian city, they've been not welcomed so greatly. And in the same time, the situation on the Polish-Belarusian border, 200 kilometers, or even 150 kilometers further, didn't change, and the people have been dying on that border. So it was very instructive. On one hand, it shows that the potential of good is big, the potential of solidarity is great, but it has its limits. It has that glass ceiling, and the racism, unfortunately, is so much present. It is very sad, but it's also very, very humiliating somehow. I don't want to feel that as a human being.